are back on NHL Tonight, fresh off the draft out in LA, and taking a look at some of the breakdowns of that draft. The players drafted by junior leagues, nobody more than the USHL with 40. Behind that, the OHL 38, WHL 33, so on and so forth. That USHL also includes the National Team Development Program. The commissioner of the USHL, Glenn Hefferan, joining us in studio now. Congratulations on that. Seeing just that number, and nobody had more than you guys as far as junior leagues out there, that must put a smile on your face.
It does, and that number only tells part of the story, because there was a total of 52 players that are former alum, 1 year out, college players, and for some reason the NHL doesn't credit us with the high school players that play in the league and also play high school. They credit them to high school, which is fine.
All right, we'll count it for you.
We'll count.
Sure. Whatever you want here.
We'll fudge it in there unofficial.
Yeah. Exactly.
What is it like when you're, I mean, listen, we've had you on and we appreciate you. You've come in studio here a couple times with us. What's it like when you're watching the draft, knowing that this, that this league has such an imprint in what the NHL does and as far as drafting the players?
Well, I think for me, I was fortunate. I was sitting right behind James Hagan's, about 2 rows back. And, when he got called, that was such a great moment. And to see his reaction of his family that close, yeah, I mean, you see it. It's just an incredible moment. A local Long Island young man, and he'll never forget that moment.
How cool was that?
Happy Gilmore. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. So, it's great to see. And there were other moments. Aiden Park. From Green Bay. Happened to be there. He was there with his buddy Riker Lee, who got drafted, which was terrific for Riker out of the Madison Capitals program, a program owned by Ryan Suter.
Right.
And so to see those moments and him in a hoodie, that was just incredible.
Caught him a little off guard.
Yeah, it was one of the loudest cheers we had all day. It was unbelievable.
Second to last pick, which is, that's awesome. And I think, that's a kid who worked really hard to get where he was in the season, and I think that's the case. Our league has a schedule. Deputy Commissioner Daly spoke about it today in an interview that he did with us, and he said our schedule, is all about. Yeah, here we go.
Here's your guy.
I love this. I mean, it's such a great moment. He was so humble and gracious in the pod, when he did his interview. So, but the point is that our schedule, we play 92% of our games on the weekend, Fridays, Saturdays. Yeah. We're practicing 4 days a week. We've got a recovery program. This week we're going to be announcing the hiring of a league-wide nutritionist who will be developed. Actually, she works for an NHL team as well. And so we're excited about all of these changes, and we're getting a lot of great support from the NHL.
When you see the USHL sitting on the top of that board, most players drafted this past draft. In your time, have you kind of developed a sense of this? What is it that the USHL does and offers a young player making that decision, where to play my amateur? What do they do different, maybe better than some of these other amateur junior leagues?
I think our schedule is part of it. When you're practicing 4 days a week, I mean, they legitimately, Monday through Thursday, they're practicing. They'll have a pregame skate depending on proximity of game. Mm-hmm. We have some tough travel, but for the most part, we play in conference schedules, and our teams are getting, there's a 2-to-1 game to practice ratio, and then there's a recovery period, and I think I think all of that lends itself to great development. Somebody should be asking the question, how does a league with 16 teams, right? We're at 3.3 drafted players per team. Right. 15 of our 16 teams had a drafted player. 25 teams from within the NHL picked our players. A lot of good things are happening here, and obviously we accounted for 50% of college hockey this past year. Yeah, there's a changing landscape, but we'll adapt. I mean, this is hockey. This isn't brain surgery. We'll figure it out.
It's interesting when we start looking at those numbers and talking to you just about the progression over the years. Because listen, I was a Ohio kid growing up. I went and played in the CHL in the Ontario Hockey League. And I don't mean this as a knock to that league. It was a great league, and it served me very well. But at that time, it was different. Now, if I have a kid that I'm sending him in the USHL, that is a different, it is now that gap has been chewed up, and they're equals now. And at one time, maybe it even was, but it wasn't perceived that way. Now it is, and those numbers back it up, and it's been like that for a number of years now.
I think that's the case. As I said, the last 9 seasons now, I think it's 197 plus 40, so don't ask me to do that math that quickly. So was at 237 over the last 9 drafts. That's a remarkable number, and that's not happening by accident. There is an intentionality to it, and I think what I hear from the scouts all the time is it's a hard league to play in. Yeah. It's heavy enough. It's not too heavy. It's hard to score in. And I use a quote by Rand Pecknold that he said to me, and my heart sunk when he first told me. He said, you know, I don't consider the USHL a development league. And I was like, oh, where's he going? And he says, I consider it a survival league. When we get USHL players on our roster, they are battle tested. Yeah. They are ready for anything we throw at them. And that's
a compliment right there.
It's a huge compliment. Yeah. And I think a lot of other schools, by the way, one other number. I'm a dated nut, so I'm always tracking numbers. NCAA Frozen 4 this year. 79 players on the ice were USHL alum.
Yeah.
79.
Yeah, interesting.
I think 9 out of the last 10 are Hobie Baker winners, you know.
You mentioned something about changing landscape. I think I know what you're referring to there.
Sure.
But so with the CHL's change with respect to eligibility for NCAA play, does that, for the USHL, does that present a challenge or an advantage of any kind? How is the USHL addressing that? A rather recent change, recent development.
I think it's a change for everybody. It's a change for the whole ecosystem. You know, we do a fall classic at the beginning of the year. All 16 teams are in Pittsburgh, and it's an event funded in part by the National Hockey League. So all the college guys and all the pro guys come in. They get to look at all of our teams in one event, right? How do you scout 60 more teams now?
Yeah.
Who's going to Chicoutimi in January?
Yeah.
Right? These are hard. Medicine Hat. Who's going to these places? It's a much tougher. I had a college coach tell me. He said, recruiting got a little easier as a result.
Yeah.
But scouting just became impossible.
Right.
So there'll be an adjustment period. We'll have an adjustment period, and there'll be players checking out the new candy on the block, and that's all part of our game. We hate change in hockey, don't we? We hate it. We don't like rule changes.
Yes.
We just don't adapt very well to it. And I think what will happen is there'll be a reset period, and then all of a sudden we'll come together. And I do think that I think the leadership in our game from USA Hockey and the NHL and Hockey Canada, and certainly some of my colleagues in the CHL that I speak to and have a great relationship with, I think we see that there's an opportunity here to really grow the game together. We don't have to be adversarial. Yeah, we're going to recruit for players and we're going to battle and all of that. And we're getting there. And I think the Declaration of Excellence that we signed with the NHL and USA Hockey is a big part of us being able to continue to make the kind of progress we've been making.
Well, you said change is scary, and yeah, change, we don't like that in the sport. We do like growth, and you mentioned that. And the sport has never been in a better place, it feels like, from any level. The NHL, we always talk to the commissioner. Business is booming, so of course expansion talks are always on the forefront of that. You mentioned 16 teams. Where do you envision the USHL maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
We want to grow. I think if you catch Deputy Commissioner's remarks in the interview, he said he has an expectation that we're expanding. He wants us to have more opportunity for players to develop at the level we develop at. Currently, we see interest in 12 different markets in our domestic footprint. There is some interest on the Canadian side of the border, and we'll manage through those issues. And as I said, I don't expect us to add 12 teams, but I do see us growing by 2 to 4 in the next 2 to 3 seasons. We've got one hopping right now in Middletown, Ohio, which will be a great project for us. It's a $200 million project in that area, and we're looking forward to seeing that come together.
All right, looking forward to seeing that as well. Always great to have you stop by. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Do you have an off season? Do you get an off season?
No, you know, we just talked about this before. No, there is no off season. It's just a hamster wheel. You just keep you're jumping from we got to get the schedule done, then we got to get fall classic going.
All right.
So it's all
enjoy
good.
the season. Enjoy your summer or what's left of it, or what.
I'll get a week.
Okay, there we go. Glenn, we appreciate it.